This podcast is a 98 Studios production.
Today's the day, baby.
Today's the day.
Today's the day.
Today's the motherfucking day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Today is the day.
Today's the day. What up, everybody? Welcome back to Today's the Day with Zack Andersen. I'm excited to dive into today's episode. And I want to preface this. I've got a quote that's been a really big motivator for me over the years, but really the point of this, and maybe I'll just make a series called Champion Thoughts. That's what we call it in my region when we have somebody come to the front and give a tidbit they're reading from a book or a podcast they heard or something they took away that gave them value that they think could give value to everybody else. And these shorter, quicker episodes, I think, are incredibly profound. They're not a massive time commitment, and it's a really good way to have reminders for myself, even to look back on, my guys, or any of you guys. I hope there's value for you. And I always try and speak from experience. And really, this last year, I've had more like breakthrough ideas or concepts that now make so much sense to me why they're so valuable. And I'm learning more and more and more as I go. But that's kind of the purpose, just so you guys understand. I know the last few episodes have been shorter and they've been principle-based, etc. But this principle is like one of my favorites, and I think it's so valuable to anybody in the door-to-door space or anywhere else. If you've ever experienced failure, this episode is specifically catered towards you. If you want to know how to handle failure, then I'm recording this for you. And before I give you the principle and my thoughts on it, I want to go and tell you a story. So when I started in the industry that I'm in, I came in, obviously you guys have heard my story before. If you haven't, go listen to it. It's in a past episode. But I came into the industry, into the door-to-door industry at a company called Vivint, being mentored actively by a guy named Casey Baugh. Casey Baugh was one of the VPs at the company at the time, and he's like one of the GOATs of all time. So I come in and I'm like this prodigy. This is how I view myself, at least my cocky self. I'm 18 years old. I'm this prodigy. I've been reading books for him. I've been reading sales books. I'm going to go kick ass. I'm going to crush. I'm going to do so well. And if you know my story, you know that although I had been reading and I was taking all of the advice he was giving me and practicing it and really, really working my hardest, naturally sales was not something that came to me. And naturally, I struggled. I didn't naturally get this thing. I wasn't talented. I wasn't crushing. I wasn't the best rep. In fact, I went out my first summer, I shipped out, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I got absolutely destroyed in a 100% commission-based job. And when I say destroyed, I mean I was the worst rep of an entire region of 200 plus reps. And it shattered my confidence for a little bit. Oddly, I still made good money. I made $12,000 in 3 months, which to me was incredible. But I was the worst of the worst. And I remember there was like active jokes going on about how poor I did because I was supposed to be really good. And I was connected with Seabaugh, who was this GOAT in the industry. And he still is one of my massive mentors to this day and one of my heroes. And it was like really, really embarrassing. And there was other people who came out that summer where they were also pretty big names in the valley that I grew up in, et cetera. And they went and crushed and they did really, really well. To give you guys some examples, I won't say any names, but to give you guys some examples of like numbers, I sold 26 smart home accounts my first summer. And this specific person that this story is in regards to sold, I believe, just over 95. So I got smashed. It was like they did 4 times the volume I did. And I remember like I sat back, I thought about it, and I just made decisions to never, ever, ever get humiliated like that again. And one of the moments, we were at this big company event. It's called the Kickoff Event. And I remember I was with my regional, Brad Rossiter, and this rep that did 4 times the volume as me was with his regional. And the regionals start kind of chirping at each other, talking a little bit of like fun crap, I guess. And the other regional, who I ended up becoming very close with, and I had hard feelings initially with them, but no longer, was like, hey, I want to make a bet. I bet my guy beats your guy. And he says this to my regional, who is my boss. He's like, I bet you my rep, we'll call him Bob for short. My rep Bob beats Zach this year. I'll bet any amount of money. And to my surprise, the second he said that, my heart dropped, my stomach hurt. I was embarrassed. I was really, really embarrassed because statistically from the year before, there was 0 chance I stood any type of chance. This is one of the very, very talented rookies, and I was the worst rookie. And to my surprise, and I owe him forever. So Brad, if you ever listen to this, Mr. Rossiter, he said, yeah, I'll take your bet. Let's do it. $5,000. And he stone cold looked this other regional in the eye. And the other regional starts laughing, but I saw something. Like, to me, that was the biggest vote of confidence. And it was a moment where someone believed in me way more than I believed in myself. And I saw that other regional laugh, because obviously, why would you not laugh? You're about to go get a free $5,000 in his mind. But a little piece of him I could see was scared. And if I could explain to you guys the amount of motivation and drive that gave me over that next year, I'm telling you, it was the most like mind-boggling shift in my identity. And I viewed myself as someone who was not willing to let Brad down because he just made a bet on me. And to be honest, I bet you the other regional and Bob, the rep, totally forgot about that bet. It was probably something they never thought about again. He never checked and saw how well I was doing. But I will tell you, every single morning when I woke up and every single night before I went to bed, I would go and check our mobile report that showed production. And if I wasn't doubling Bob, the other rep, I would do whatever it took to go and double him. That was my standard. And that became my identity. Like, I may fail, and I will fail, and I do fail pretty often, actually. But how I come back from that is part of my identity. And I think everybody, whether you're in business, whether you're in door-to-door, whether you're doing anything, you'll have moments where you fall flat on your face and you absolutely fail. And I truly believe the only time that you actually fail, at the meaning of the word failure, the only time you fail is when you don't learn. So you either win or you learn. And I'm telling you, this became my identity. And if you go, the end of that year was exactly what it sounds like it would be. It was a hero story. It was amazing. I went and absolutely dominated. And I built this identity around myself of, dude, I don't fail. I learn and I come back, and I'm better when I come back. I'm better for it. So every time I fail, I'm really grateful for it. And for those of you guys that are out knocking in the summer, maybe your failure is a really big failure. Maybe it's a full summer that didn't go the way you wanted to go. Maybe it's your fifth year and you had a slower year than your fourth. Or maybe you've just had some really, really bad weeks and you thought you'd be having a totally different outcome this summer. Or maybe your business falls flat on its face when you're expecting it to be thriving at this point in time, or whatever it may be. And I challenge all of you guys to approach it with a champion mindset and approach that failure, quote unquote, or that learning experience as something that's just going to make you come out the other side even better than you were before. And then go put in the effort that it takes to actually materialize that into growth, right? If you use it to learn and grow, a failure is the best thing that could ever happen to you. And I want to read this. There's a passage from one of my favorite books ever. And this is so aligned with the identity that I have when it comes to failing. And it says, champions are comeback artists. I'm going to the top of the mountain. You're either going to see me waving from the top or dead on the side. But you know what? I'm not coming down. And I think it's like the most like motivating force is to understand that real champions, they're not the ones who never fail. Real champions aren't the guys who go and have a really, really easy run at it and everything goes their way and they win every time. Real champions are the ones that fail and they bounce back way better than they ever were before. And I think it's one of the most important principles that I've learned in success and in life is how you handle those learning experiences and how you grow from them greatly determine the results that you get. And a quote again in this book that's like one of my favorite quotes, and I dare people, like subconsciously I'll see someone and one of my competitors and I'm like, I dare you. And this is the quote. It says, a bet against the champion is a bad bet. And I remember in my industry, in anything I do, I love to like look people in the eyes and like imagine that I'm talking to them through telepathy and say things like, I dare you to bet against me. And honestly, like when people actually openly bet against me, I love it. I dare you to bet against me. I'll make it the worst bet you've ever made. And it's like one of my massive driving forces and motivators in business. And it also, not only is it a driving force and a motivator to go and do more, it also keeps me away from spiraling when things don't go the way I want them to go. And I think people need to learn the skill of failing and exercise the muscle of failing. And the people who are the best in any room have probably just got more no's than anybody else combined. And the people who are the legends and the ones that are building legacies have failed more than anybody else. They've failed more than anybody else has even tried. It's not the people who have always got yes that are the most successful. It's the people who can take no, internalize it in a way that pushes them forward, and then go and get whatever results they want to go and get, regardless of the amount of times or the circumstances or the initial results that they get. So for all of you guys that are out there busting your ass, or all of you guys that came off a summer and maybe it didn't go the way you wanted it to, remember, there's no such thing as failing as long as you learn and as long as you come back better. It's one of the most important things I've ever learned. I hope it's helpful for you guys. As always, I love you and much love until next time.